68. We come from the tale so long ago, cast on the waves and the wind. We've made it this far together, you know. Come brothers and sisters and friends. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Come gather round and hear the sound. You're the wandering kind. You can make it alone, just so you know. We leave no one behind. Our mothers and fathers who weathered the storms were strong in the trials of their times. So we brothers and sisters live door by door, carry on with a song in our lives. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. sing out this song for years to come. A story without an end. 'Cause how good it is to be among our brothers and sisters and friends. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. In name of Tov, in name of Tov. Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Inem Hatov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Shevet Achim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Shevet Achim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. My colleagues are not here. Rabbi Kaplansky is not with us this evening. Rabbi Rosenberg is not with us this evening. Rabbi Adam Bellows is not with us this evening. And I, your friendly neighborhood crabbi, is here this evening. And here I am. Reminds me of the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he was pitching, catching, and calling the balls and strikes at the same time. So that will be me this evening. So have Rachmanis. And we're going to welcome Rachmanut. Rachmanut means have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. And by the way, we do have people here in our sanctuary. We have David Cohen, my dear colleague, and assistant music director. Murray Fishman is, of course, manning some of the cameras here. And Alan Barish is working, I think, the sound, but he's back in the panel. And Marilyn Pittler is with us, so I feel very, very supported. So we're doing just fine here. And we're going to now welcome Shabbat. The candles have already been lit. If you are following along in the Mishkan Tefillah prayer book, we turn to page 120. And on page 120, let's see if we can bring in this Shabbat now. And by the way, you see those candles? There are two of them. We're going to be talking a lot about dualism, not just in Shabbat, but dualism in Judaism. Dualism as an ethic here and as a way of expressing one's intentions. Really important, especially with this section. It started last week. It's going into this particular Torah reading, which we'll talk about a little bit, and also going into next week as well. And we're going to be exploring the number 2 and what it means to us and what it signifies as code words and code in the Torah as well. So let's say together the blessings for the candles at this time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav vitzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us with mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. And if you can, say Amen. Amen. El Melech Ne'eman, which is an acronym for pronouncing these words as it is our spiritual and religious truth as Jews. And now we're going to hold up this cup of wine this cup of wine. And by the way, when we take our sip of wine to consecrate the Shabbat, we also take 2 sips. One meaning that we took a sip, and one is it satisfies our own taste. But 2, being the number of intention, means that we have drawn our attention to exactly why we are sampling the wine. One for ourselves and one for the moment. You probably hear that too when you see weddings, where we ask the bride and groom to sip wine twice. Well, we are marrying ourselves to God through the Shabbat, and Lecha Dodi actually plays that out in poetic form. So if you can please stand, and we are going to make a kiddush, as it says, intone the words of the Kiddushat Hayom on page 123, and we sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahavav ratzon hinechilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techilo likro kodesh zecher letzion mitzrayim kivanu v'chorta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'omrim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'veratzon hinechaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. And we say together L'chaim and Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to turn off my microphone for a second because they don't need to hear me taking my 2 sips. Oh, yes. As I said, today's conversation we're going to have, well, the conversation's kind of one-sided, which, by the way, is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. One-sided conversations, if you will, especially about things that are so important, because this week's Torah reading is entitled Korach. Korach, it's one of the few sections in the Torah that's named for a person, and this person happens to be an Israelite, not unlike Sarah was an Israelite, and Pinchas was an Israelite, but Balak was not an Israelite, nor was Yitro an Israelite, and Korach is Korach being the Israelite that he is. And the theme that I want to present to you, and I want you to think about this, it's an interesting term, I sort of put the term out here, it's called dualism as intentionality. Dualism, which is a cloak for intentionality. And it's a very, very deep kind of, academic term, if you will, maybe academically intended, but it means just the symbolology of the number 2 as it pertains to Jews' intentionality. I just like it, it's a little bit cleaner to say. Family conflict, indeed, can be fierce and polarizing, as you know. And such can be the case as we look in Parshat Korach, this incendiary section, very difficult. And it's Numbers chapter 16, verse 1 through 18, verse 32. And Korach, if you haven't read it yet, is a Levite in the Torah who enlists two members of the tribe of Reuven Datan and Aviram to challenge Moses and Aaron's seats of leadership. Like so many narratives in the Torah, this one provides little context and even less character development. The Torah just tells us what happens a lot of times, right? It just reports what happens. And the way we work through the narratives is by finding current situations, like today, modern situations, that we may be able to relate or attach to the stories of 3,500, 4,000 years ago. Make it relevant, right? Rather than align any of the domestic or international conflicts with this narrative, which we certainly could. Torah study, by the way, tomorrow morning, probably many people ask questions about drawing lines for these things as we talk about this. I would like to attempt to help frame the argument. An argument in Hebrew is called machloket. Machloket. Here's a new Hebrew word for you if you haven't said it. Say machloket. Machloket. Very good. Machloket. It's an argument, right? Don't make such a machloket out of something like this, or what? You want to start a machloket? That's a really cool word, okay? Could be one of the code words here in the congregation. Somebody knows the word machloket means is, you remember UH, you heard this. Anyway, machloket, with a more constructive model. In other words, arguing more constructively. By doing so, I hope that you will be able to take this model and try to moderate other conflicts through the age-old technique of, and Marilyn knows this, memtet, which means 49, 49. Why 49? Why 49? You ask? Of course you ask. Why 49? I'll tell you, of course. The Torah may be interpreted to yield either 49 aspects of purity or 49 aspects of impurity, depending on who does the studying. It is interesting that the numerical value of the word vidagalu, which is part of the word 49, and his flag, vidaglu, and his flag, which is found, by the way, in the Torah, in Korach, vidaglu, and his banner flew. His flag, the numerical value of all those letters put together, 49. Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. We then tend to wave our opinions above us like a banner of bias, however popular that opinion might be. Vidaglu, interesting, in the Torah. Midrash Psalms, chapter 12, gives us an interesting little continuation of this concept. Rabbi Meir would prove the purity of a reptile from the Bible with 49 reasons, and would prove the impurity of the same said reptile with another 49 reasons. And so Rabbi Chaya taught, Rabbi Meir had one student, Sumchus was his name, and he would prove the purity of a reptile from the Bible with 49 reasons, and would prove the impurity of that same reptile with 49 reasons. And Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, young students in the time of King Saul, King David, the prophet Samuel knew how to study the Torah with 49 reasons to rule a matter impure and 49 reasons to rule a matter pure. We should make that an entrance examination for our religious school, don't you think? The Babylonian Talmud, Nedarim, chapter 38a says, quote, Rav and Samuel both said 50 gates, it's not 49, 50 gates of understanding were created in the world, and all but one was given to Moses. This is important. 50 gates of understanding were created in the world, and all but one was given to Moses. For it is said in Psalms chapter 8, verse 6, you have made him, Moses, a little lower than God. God is 50. Moses was always 49. Yeah. So we want to remember that. Numbers chapter 16, verse 12, as we move 11, 12 sentences into Numbers chapter 16 from Korach, tells of the time when Moses invited Datan and Aviram, who were two of the lieutenants of Korach, who were complaining about Moses' authoritarian leadership at the time, and he invited them for a conversation or of a summit of sorts. Their response was abrupt and dismissive when they said, Lo na'aleh, no na'aleh. We will not come. And in fact, it really means na'aleh from Allah, aleh, aleinu lishav, when we stand. So it really means we will not come up. We could see this as the two objectors refusing to meet with Moses and at the same time acknowledging his authority and high status among the people. Now, to some, it can be seen as the downtrodden masses refusing to leave their place for a temporary experience with the privileged class. They may have rather liked Moses to meet them on their level. What Datan and Aviram may have not understood is that Moses did not have to invite them at all. Moses may have invited them to show them that his transparency and his willingness to meet with them as one human to another, and to prove to them that the seat on which he sits is not as high as they may think. We will never be able to see this resolved, however, because the Torah provides us with the dualism of intention yet again. Two more sentences, chapter 16, verse 14, when he says again, Datan and Aviram went and said again, Lo na'aleh, I will not come up. Boom, final. 2 times. They said it once, then it became non-negotiable. In anticipation of the gory outcome, Moses and Korach were about to have their fire pan throwdown, and guess who wins that one? Moses warns the people in chapter 16, verse 26, to suru, to turn away or avoid or avert themselves from this bad vibe, this energy. Because they will meet, that is, Datan, Aviram, and Korach will meet a fate that would be horrible, they and 250 of their supporters. And if you want to be a part of that, go right ahead. But if not, get out of town right now because it's going to get ugly. Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, verse 2 says very clearly, Ben Azai said, be quick to perform a minor commandment as in the case of a major one, and flee from transgression. For one commandment leads to another commandment, and transgression leads to another transgression. For the reward of performing a commandment is another commandment, zachar mitzvah mitzvah, and the reward for committing a transgression, avera v'avera. The reward for committing another transgression is another transgression. So you hop on that avera train, and it's going to be very difficult to get off. Just look at the world around us. Moses, in my opinion, was attempting to engage in a constructive discussion. Before that discussion can occur, the two parties need to meet. A shared reality needed to be agreed upon in person for an argument to even begin. Moses may not have known it at the time, but he set the conditions when he invited Datan and Aviram to his domain. Would the outcome of this conflict be different if Moses had gone to see the two in their homes, if he just did that? We will never know. The fact is that there was no opportunity for any discussion where 49 and 49 were going to be brought together in a measured quantitative debate. Never could have been exercised. We can, in reading sentences 12 and 14, though, like I said, that Datan and Aviram were 50-0 on the topic, and even meeting with Moses may not have mattered. We may then assume that they would have at least tabled the discussion. The term for table is teku. To teku or table this discussion could not be an option, however. The fate and future of the Israelites and the Jewish people were at stake. It could not be left on a table. Desperate times, desperate measures. It was out of desperation that Korach and Datan and Aviram brought their angst to Moses, and the reaction was equally as intense on the other side. The outcome tells me that when we fail to even begin a discussion on a contentious issue with someone in our lives, certain destruction will follow. In this instance, when one side loses, both sides are weakened, and the effects can last, well, look where we are today. When we encourage in machlokat l'shem shemayim, argument for the sake of heaven, we are doing more than rhetorical jousting.
We are engaging in a controlled exercise, practice if you will, that may prove essential to our very existence, as it may be called upon to help us constructively disagree with those on the other side of any debate. And this conversation will continue, I'm sure, with contributions from members of our congregation tomorrow morning in Torah study. Again, this parsha brings a lot of different angles, and I'm talking more about methodology and the way in which we can all hopefully get along, but there are a lot of different ways to look at it. Look it up. I think there's just a lot to learn from it. But right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce Lecha Dodi to us, because, as I said, that dualism is something that we're talking about, because you can see Datan, Aviram, two of the lieutenants. You needed two. Korach needed two people to come forward as witnesses and as support. The two of them also said Lo Na'alet twice. So dualism is really important. And let's counterbalance that negative dualism with the dualism of our unity with our souls to God through the Shabbat with Lecha Dodi on page 138, the first two verses, and the last verse on page 139. Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Shamo v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishviyanu Elam Yuchad, Adonai Echad, Shmo Echad, L'Shem Tiferet v'Litila Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Likat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Im kor haברכה מראש, מקדם בנסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבתך. Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Everyone, stand up, please. Turn to a place where your doors may be open, windows, your heart, your mind. Look up if you wish to, and we sing the last verse. Moed echala, ateret bala, gam besimcha ubetzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala, Lecha Dodi, Likat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. 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 And let's all remain standing as we prepare for the call to worship, the formal beginning of our service. And we will turn in our books to the Baruch Hu, found on page 146. I need reassurance on these things. You know, got a lot going on in my head. And we sing together.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. And let's all please turn to page 152. And let's pause for a moment and have ourselves a little bit of time to think, to reflect on Shabbat, and to, instead of doing a little arguing, a little machloket, a little bit of listening. If you're lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way, and listen to our God. When the wind and thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you will hear if you will listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill, from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malechuto Le'olam. Listen to our God. Listen to our God. One of the great songs, pieces, arrangements written by my good friend Doug Kotler. He will be retiring as the rabbi cantor of his congregation in California pretty soon. Good friends, been for decades. What a great guy.
They sing that every Friday night. It is their minhag, and it's cool to see all the people they put their arms around each other and they sway back and forth singing it together. It is a moment that they create in their community, and I hope that very soon we'll all be able to do that too here. It's really going to be powerful when we do. On page 158, we have our piece, Michamocha, and we're going to sing, I think, Michamocha. We're going to do Rick's arrangement of Michamocha. So we're going to think, who is like unto you, Almighty God, among the people. And I'm just going to turn my page over here because on page 157, let's read this together. I won't hear you, but let's read it together. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way, inspired by prophets and instructed by sages. Time and again, we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace, and then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea, page 158. Mi kamocha ha'erim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Rora tegilo, Oseh felet. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Moses and the children crossed the sea. They sing to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi kamocha ha'erim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar Page 160. And Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu L'chayim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shalomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shalomecha. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Oh, Adonai. Amen. 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 Page 163. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and a joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Adonai, Svatai, Svatai Tita, Ufi, Yaki Tequila Deva. Adonai, Svatai, Svatai Tita, Ufi, Yaki Tequila Deva. Thought has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and a joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Everyone stand. Adonai, Svatai, Svatai Tivta, Ufi, Yaki Tequila. Are you standing? Good. Hey, let's get a sway going if you can. It's good for circulation. Tivta, Ufi, Yaki Tequila, Decha, Adonai, Svatai, Svatai Tivta, Ufi, Yaki Tequila Techa. We turn now to page 164, and now that you're standing and moving around just a little bit, it's great to get moving, isn't it? It really is. And if you had dinner beforehand, it also aids in digestion, burns calories. It's a good thing to do. Movement is good. So let's turn now to page 164 as we prepare for the Amidah, the standing prayers at this time. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'ezrat Sarah, page 168. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol ata rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofeh chorim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido meroch, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata le'achayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Page 170 at the top of the page. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalaluhu chasela, baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. And if you can, please be seated. On page 174, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam ba'ahava tikabel, u'tihi liratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, el karov lechol korav, pnei el avadecha v'chonenu, shefoch ruchacha aleinu. On page 175, we continue with an interpretive English. You are with us in our prayers, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answers to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai she'otcha levadecha b'yir'ah na'avod. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Page 176, really important prayer. Well, they all are important, of course, contextually. This one, though, because we are beginning to find the world opening up to us. And if we realize this, please, everybody, be careful, but also be grateful. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu le'olam va'ed. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lihodot. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. We are grateful for many, many things, obviously. Let us all be grateful for the life we have and for the health we enjoy. But let's also consider those who are not well today, not well at this time, who are ill. Those of us who are experiencing anxiety, stress, but also physical ailments, illness, and feeling the secondary pressures and anxiety of loved ones who are not well. We feel their pain, and we feel frustrated that we cannot literally crawl inside of them and fix them. But some things we just can't do, because remember, we have been made 49 at the best, just one step lower than God. We are not God, and we need to acknowledge that. So, let's think of those people who are not well, and let's put together a collective spirit of healing as we sing together on page 371, the Mishaberach. המלאכה לאימותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah, Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals the sick. We say together, Amen. And we now pause for page 178. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. 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 Ki ata melech Adon le'kol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon le'kol hashalom. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol leit ובכל שעה לשלומך. שלום רב HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim announcements. I know we have that wonderful prayerful time in that moment, and then it's like, and now for something completely different, parroting Monty Python and all those awkward transitions. But it is time to move on to the announcements and look forward to the week ahead. Remember, next week now, 6 o'clock, we really look forward to the week ahead. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday night, so go on our website and take a look at next week now. It's 15 minutes of Havdalah and getting an opportunity to get a head of our Torah reading. And sometimes the rabbis and my colleagues and I, will sing something new and exciting, something that inspires us, and we will bring that at the beginning of each of those services. So, come on, drop on in and have a chance to share Havdalah with us at 6 o'clock on Saturdays. But before that, we are kicking off Shabbat, and isn't it wonderful that even though this building is closed, so to speak, and it really isn't, our hearts are always open, and these doors are open to Shabbat. You need to know that. We keep this place open for Shabbat. This is a busy place on Shabbat. This congregation does not shut its doors, and we started off now, and then tomorrow morning, Torah study. Go on our website. You will see that we are still in Torah study until August, when we will start doing our live Torah study, which will be hybridized, so you'll be able to stay if you wish. We have many people now that join us in Torah study from around the region and around the world, actually, so they can still participate on the Zoom platform. But those of you who are close by and want to come in and see us in real life, then you're welcome to come to our chapel and study with us. Breakfast is going to be minimal. In fact, it's just going to be beverages. If you want to bring your own, that's wonderful. But we cannot at this time serve any kind of food and hand it out. But we will get there, one step at a time. So 9 o'clock Torah study. Our Shabbat morning service at 10:30 after that. And then occasionally we have our 12 o'clock studies, lunch and learns. This week we don't have them. We're in our summer months, so we're sort of dialing back our lunch and learns and our 3:30 afternoon programs, educational programs. We're going to be ramping them up very, very much so aggressively in August, however, and kick everything back into next June, of course. But then at 6 o'clock is our next week now. Upcoming events. On Monday, June 21st at 1 p.m. is the June Virtual Senior Program, tour of the Tenement Museum of New York. So you don't even have to buy a plane ticket, just tune on in. And by the way, with all of us now, I'm sure with the 15, 16 months we've been out, y'all are pretty good with our technology, so please get on that and have a chance to visit the Tenement Museum in New York. Pop-up Shabbat at 6 o'clock on June 25th. That's not this Friday. This Friday I'll have something to say about that, but the following week, Pop-up Shabbat is going to happen. Bring your own chair, your own blanket, and enjoy Shabbat evening service in the parking lot. It will also be our Shabbat in celebration of the LGBTQ community. It is Pride Shabbat. And I'm just going to let you in on a secret. Donna Korena Shinshinit. She's going to be with us to sing something completely new. David and I are working on it. It's so much fun. So if you want to get on over here, pop up a chair, sit back, kick back, and enjoy Shabbat service outside in front of the synagogue. And you can also join via live stream and, of course, UH Facebook page if you are doing so this evening. UH will partner with the American Red Cross, not the Mogen David Adom in Israel, the American Red Cross, to hold a blood drive on Tuesday, August 3rd, 1 to 6 p.m. in the chapel, in the Spielberg Chapel. We have had this blood drive for as long as I've been here, and I've been here for a while. So this blood drive is really, really, really important. Please give the gift of life. We're going to move forward now to next Friday. Gerald Freeman, who is our director of facilities here in the synagogue, but also an ordained minister, runs his own church. And he and I are going to team up on this bima. We're going to work together for Juneteenth. Next Friday is June 18th. It's the Erev Teenth. Juneteenth means the last teen day, and it celebrates the proclamation of freedom in Galveston, Texas. That which was proclaimed January 1st of 1863, it took that long to Nachamal get over to Galveston so they can figure out that there was no more slavery. How about that? And we're going to celebrate that because that is an incredibly important and very, very timely commemoration and celebration. I'm looking forward to working with and to sharing this venerable and historic bima with Gerald as well as we work together to celebrate Shabbat and celebrate freedom. Celebrate freedom, indeed. We are now about to conclude our service. My gosh, it goes by quickly. We're going to conclude our service now on page 586, and please stand so we can conclude our service with Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וקור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. And you may be seated, and it is time now to recite the names of those who we have loved and lost, those who we have taken into our hearts as our very own, and those who we remember for blessing, the martyrs of our people, the 6 million, of course, we take into our hearts all the time at these services. But now, I want to, in particular, recognize those whose lives have ended this week as they begin Shiva, the 7 days of mourning, and the families of Shirley Alberstadt, Janine A. Kaufman, and Nancy Seifer. We are in the period of Shloshim, that's the 30 days of observance, to Jason Lewis James, Gary Allen Lepkowitz, and Alvin Weinman. And now we read the roster of souls that were it not for them, we would not be here today. It is their spirit that we still maintain in this place, even though their physical forms are no longer blessing the hallways and the seats in our congregation. Their spirit is now living on through all of us and every time we mention their names as well. Ivan Sonny Altman, Shepard Arbiter, Helen G. Bierman, Ray Berger, Fern Weinstein Bergson, Dora Burke, Frida Bierman, Howard Bennett Bodker, Stanley L. Boxerman, Gertrude E. Brown, Joanne Cellist, Nathan Cohen, Max R. Davidson, Louis Diener, Jim Eder, Doris Ann Ellis, Rose F. Engel, Sally Sachs Enoch, Lillian Fitter, Annie Frank, Francis Fredman, Hannah Gimpelson, Nathan Goldie, Betty Jane Goldstein, Sarah Nancy Grohlman, Anne Carlene Gutter, Albert A. Hoffman, Sam Hoffman, Flora Hurwitz, Dr. Marlon K. Jackaway, Esther Jacoby, Herb Jagist, Ellie L. Kessler, Mary Lasky, Ben Lehrman, Alvin R. Lewin, Ida Mae Ludwig, Ben Merrims, Anita Myers, Eva G. Meldovsky, Leah Moss, Celeste Recht, Milton C. Ritzlin, Lottie Rodenberg, Martha Rosenberg, Ruth Rubin, Goldie Seltzer Scallett, Albert Schneiderman, Berta N. Schwartz, Harry A. Seltzer, Elaine Enoch Siporin, Caroline Slepsky, Sadie Solomon, Harry Soren, Dr. Phil Sosnoff, David Paul Sternick, Adelaide Stoller, Louis Towerman, Siva Kretschmar Twin, Bertha Unger, Esther M. Vieden, Gabriel Wagner, Sam Weber, Lena Weinberg, Rose Karpf-Yacker, Solomon S. Zierman. We remember them all, and if you hold people that I did not name into your hearts, please think of them now as we now stand, if you can, for the Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which is a prayer of thanksgiving. It is not a prayer that makes any reference to death. It thanks God for all of these people's names and for all the lives that went before us. It's a prayer of thanksgiving and a sacred bridge, recognizing life here on earth and life in Olam Haba. We say together on page 598, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitbarach v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei de kudisha brihu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'olma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And may the source of peace send peace to all of those who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and may our souls rest in eternal peace. And we say together once again, Amen. And we conclude our service, of course, singing those wonderful words, the last words of the Kaddish. May the one who brings peace from the high heavens bring peace to us and to all Israel. And we say together, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Die, He